Hey, welcome everyone to Bollox Talks and Tangents. You have a Blevins here, but a different Blevins. I'm Blake, Mr. Lenny.
Hi, kids. We got a Blevins in the audience. We're in operation. We're good.
Yeah. So as long as a Blevins is here working Bollox, it's officially a Bollox.
I agree.
So how's it going, Mr. Remo?
It's going very well, thank you, Blake. It's a pleasure to be here working with you, as I always enjoy doing.
But once again, choked in trivia yet again.
Well, we still got out of there with third place, so that was fine. Fine.
Got your $10 in house cash.
That's it. And we'll put that together with the 30 from when we won 2 weeks ago, and we'll eat well.
True enough. All right. Before we continue on with our topic of the day, origins of famous chefs. We got to thank our amazing sponsor.
I think we should. So we're going to start with the St. Augustine Distillery, which, if you're looking for Christmas gifts time of year and a whiskey drinker or, somebody who enjoys well-made alcohol, I would go to the St. Augustine Distillery, take their tour, get a couple of free tastings, and you'll know what you're looking for. And as all good tours do, it unloads you into a gift store. But there's a beautiful shop. I mean, they got all their liquors on sale and all their merch. And you know what? If you got a whiskey lover, their bourbon and their sherry casks and things of that nature are fabulous. And the tour is one of the best tours in St. Augustine by far. So you can't go wrong with the St. Augustine Distillery. But if you're on the other side of town, if you're closer to the fort, you can always go to the City Gates Winery or City Gates Distillery. Another free tour. I think you get 9 samples there, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And it's really pretty fabulous because they'll give you 9 samples so you can try what you're about to buy, and I recommend buying there too. The stuff is fairly priced, and it's some of the most creative liquor you're going to find, in all honesty. And that's great. And that says, Troy not being here, somebody should say sponsor-o, which it's on over by the fort, right on that main drag on Avenue D. Menendez. Which I've been in town for 8 years. I still can't pronounce that street properly. So I just call it the Bayfront. It's just so much easier to pronounce. And when you're on the Bayfront and you see those beautiful Christmas lights and you're thirsty and you're hungry and you want to go someplace wonderful, stop into Meehan's.
Oh, the best. You
like the mac and cheese there, don't you?
The best mac and cheese, the best chicken in town. It is amazing. Plus also a great way to watch all types of sports there. It is fantastic.
And if you like European football or rugby, they're often open early. If there's a big game going on in Ireland or in England and it's a rugby game, they're often open early for those matches as well. Reggie does a great job. The staff is fabulous. The food is wonderful. And you know what? So there's a little bit of a chill in the air right about now, but in the backyard and up on the porch, he's got fire tables, so you can toast yourself and your buns on your hamburger if you want while you're there. So you're going to be warm regardless. It's not a problem this time of year, and it's beautiful. It really is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I was only there twice last week.
It's
slacking.
Definitely. But which spot do you prefer in Meehan's? The backyard, main, or the oyster bar?
Well, we do Christmas Eve on the oyster bar, my wife and I. We go upstairs for Christmas Eve oysters. That's a tradition since we've been in St. Augustine. The pub downstairs is very lovely. I enjoy the bar there because, some of the barmen are good friends of mine, so I can catch up with them and eat and drink comfortably. And then outside, the staff out there, Billy, Shay, Kelly, all of them that are in the backyard are just lovely people, and they're on top of their game there. And that's where a lot of the live music is in the backyard. There's live music. I think it was the St. Augustine Angels. There was a band there that was playing there last week. And of course, I'm old and forget stuff, but their name was very clever. I think it was I'm going to have to find out who it was because it was a duo and they were great.
Okay.
Great live music. And the food is consistently wonderful there.
Absolutely.
It really is. It really is.
Absolutely. All right, but
go ahead. You take this one.
But another place on Sponsor Row is the St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum. I'll always ask for Captain Mayhem on these tours. Mm-hmm. It is a phenomenal museum. There like pirate artifacts everywhere throughout the museum. Get a tour from him, and he will detail every single piece in that museum. It is phenomenal. And how long ago did you take your family to the museum?
About 3 months ago.
And did everyone of them enjoy it?
Very much so. Very much so. One of my favorite things was a beautiful curved dagger that looked like it would have come from like a Turkish pirate or something like that. But, if you want to combine two of our sponsors, you can start at the Pirate Museum, and then you can go to the St. Augustine Distillery and yo-ho-ho, get a bottle of rum.
Oh.
How do you like that? Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, but one thing we're missing about the Pirate Museum, a classic Jolly Roger. That is...
Well, the Pirate Museum has a real one.
It is a real one.
Yep. One of the only 2 legitimate documented Jolly Roger flags known to be in existence right now.
So make sure you check that out. And now we got to plug the place that you work at sometimes.
Kaiser's Deli. Kaiser's Deli and Market. First of all, Kaiser is a wonderful person and a great human being. Second of all, if you're looking for a small party, 25 people, give or take, whether it's a holiday party, an office party, a birthday party, that's the place to do it. He'll tailor a menu for you. He's got the greatest curated selection of beer in St. Augustine. I'm not going out on a limb by saying that. His selection of beer is just wonderful. Nice wines, all affordably priced. Plus the food is great. You know, between the French dip, the Raleigh, he's got vegetarian sandwiches there, all fresh cut, all boar's head cold cuts. You can't go wrong there. I have nothing but the best things to say about my dear friend Kaiser and that deli. And he's carrying a tremendous, if you're looking for gift giving right about now, most of the products that he carries in there are locally made and locally sourced. Between Bee Hill Farms honey and there's a candle maker in there. He's got some great stuff. Coffee, he's got a local coffee. And you know, stay tuned. There may be some big news coming from Kaiser's in the immediacy of the beginning of the new year.
All right, that's awesome.
I'm excited. I'm gonna keep it under my hat for a little while, but it's gonna make a lot of people happy.
All right. So my favorite tax agents, my favorite accountants in the town, Abare, Kresge and Associates. Do you know why, Lenny?
They keep your dad out of jail?
Absolutely. They are the best. They work with everyone. He like my dad has a whole lot of businesses. They solve it. They solve it well. They make sure my dad does not go to jail, and they should be your accountants as well. Abare, Kresge and Associates. And lastly, speaking about one of my dad's businesses,
Coquina Coast Realty.
Coquina Coast Realty. If you were looking to buy or sell property here in St. Johns County, I should go to my camera for this one. Nope, that's your camera. 904-669-7901. Once again, call or text 904-669-7901. Lenster.
You ready for the show? First of all, we're sitting in the big boy studio. I'm very excited by this. We came out of the parlor and look at us. Studio A.
It is. Hey, P, I'm messing up your chair right now. I'm messing up your chair. I'm messing up the heights. All right. But one thing we're not touching, though, the Christmas tree. We're not touching that.
No. And the carousel.
Oh, yeah, no.
Okay.
Dude, Pete hates the carousel. I know. All right. Word origin.
Did he fall off as a small child? Is this can we trace this back to a rational explanation? He fell off a carousel horse as a small child?
It was actually more adulthood trauma with all the traffic.
Oh, okay. All right. Good to know.
All right. Mr. Remo.
Yes, sir.
What is your first word origin?
Well, you know, it's funny. My wife and I enjoy The Voice. It's a show that we like. We definitely fast forward through all the background stories, which, by the way, in the last couple of seasons have gotten dramatically less traumatic because a lot of the backstories on some of these people were, you know, horrific car accidents they survived or serious diseases, and now they're back on stage. It's become a lot more upbeat lately, and that's really good. But you know, the show takes a long time, so forget it. So we're not going to go with that. But we're watching it last night, and one of the coaches there was a guy by the name of Niall Horan, who was in a boy band.
One Direction.
Okay. After me.
Don't ask how I know. Davey, I see you there. Don't ask me how I know. All right, continue.
And he was so impressed by one of the singers that he said, "You actually blew it out of the water." And I had to think about that for a couple minutes, and I had to go, hey, that would be a perfect idiom for word origins. So blow it out of the water, if you follow it to its logical conclusion, is about naval warfare. And, you know, if you're good with your cannons, you're blowing somebody literally out of the water. But I had to curry through a couple of them. It came from the 19th century originally, and that's the literal meaning. The figurative meaning was repudiate or destroy somebody verbally. You're going to blow them out of the water. You're just going to excoriate them completely, and you're going to take them down to peg or 17. But I kept going through a little bit, and there was one that made sense for what Niall was saying, and it's to thoroughly impress, overwhelm, or excite somebody. So I'll take that definition to understand what he was trying to say at the time. So when you're blown out of the water, I guess it's like being blown away. You could be blown away being blowed up, or you could be blown away by going, oh my goodness, that was fabulous.
All right. Good first word. Good first phrase, I should say.
Okay. And you, sir?
It's multiple words. All right. So, Lenny, do you consider yourself a good egg?
I try to be.
Okay.
I try to be. I don't succeed all the time, but I try to be.
Yeah. So obviously you have good eggs and bad eggs. So it actually originated from the British.
Okay.
The British created this word. So it came from the British public school slang.
All right.
Yeah. So from the 1800s, for someone who is not so someone who was nice, and hence bad egg is also mean someone who is also not nice as well. And actually, and 50 years later on, from the origin, actually, so bad egg actually came first. So bad egg came first, mean like you're not someone that was very nice.
Right.
Then 50 years later, the good egg phrase came up first. Then, and of course, I chose something that was a bit food oriented because it's something that was because our topic is chefs.
Right.
So.
And I appreciate the fact that you're linking our topic, our word origins, because I try to do that, because Dad is all over the map with his word origins from time to time. So I try to link either the two of them together or to our topic. So I'm very proud of you for doing that. That's wonderful.
Hey, look, I try my best to keep it sane, to try to keep it on topic.
Considering me and your father, you have a hard job.
Please, once in a while, you usually blow out the microphone in our studio with all your laughing and how you sit close to it.
Well, I could probably sit back here. My voice does tend to carry. I do say that as far as being a good egg, I've got a lot of friends who would probably say I'm kind of hard-boiled, but that's neither here nor there right now. Yeah. All right, my second one?
Indeed.
Swamp.
So,
and it's not for all you, well, it could be for all you Gator fans out there, but be that as it may, John Smith from the Jonestown Colony.
Oh.
Jamestown, I'm sorry. Wait. Yeah, Jamestown, not Jonestown.
Wait, we're not going to get demonetized, are we?
I don't think so. By who?
Facebook for saying Jonestown.
No. We're not doing that. We're talking Jamestown.
Okay, good.
It was a slip of the tongue. If we go back to 3 or 4 weeks ago, we understand that as a word origin and an idiom. Or in this case, as an idiot. But as the case may be. So it was Jamestown Colony. John Smith, the head of the Jamestown Colony, got there, and they're looking at what they thought was solid ground, but it turned out to be watery, and he called it a swamp. And a swamp is something that appears solid, looks dry, but it's actually wet, and if you're not careful where you step, you could drown. So that was there. But as an idiom, in the late 1700s, early 1800s, people started being overwhelmed by things, I guess. So they were sinking or drowning in work. So just as they would be in a literal swamp. So if you're swamped at work, you're underwater. You're not keeping up with it.
Okay. All right. So real quick before we go to my second word origin, what bourbon are you drinking tonight, Mr. Remo?
Well, for those of you scoring at home, it's George Remus, and George Remus is the king of the bootleggers. This is a light bourbon, for those of you who are concerned. This is only 114 proof, which is 57.1% alcohol by volume, and it's actually quite lovely. It's not as hot as it could be, because some bourbons, when they get to be overproof, the descriptive term I use is hot, because they're a little burning when you're drinking them, and this happens to be very, very well balanced and very, very nice. It's a single barrel. And it's delicious.
All right, good. Now, you think there are any good chefs that can make a good like a good item with that bourbon? Like what do you recommend?
Well, you can always do a bananas Foster. Some people use rum. I tend to use bourbon because I like bourbon.
Okay.
Bananas Foster is a nice flambe dish, or you can do it over crepes as well. But a nice scoop of ice cream. One of my restaurants. And by the way, I don't know how I didn't make the list of world famous chefs because I cook good and did it professionally for 35, 40 years.
Okay.
So
Sorry for not including you in my list.
Right. I didn't include me either. So But
hey, but my second word is chef. So
oui, chef.
Yes, chef. All right. So, actually, chef, the word chef doesn't actually have a direct meaning towards food or cooking. It actually comes from the French spelling of chief.
Chief, right.
Yep. So basically, chef is a abbreviation of chef de cuisine, meaning kitchen head or kitchen chief. So,
and in kitchens, chefs are the boss. It's sort of hard to let go of, because when you're running a kitchen, everything's hot, everything's fast, everything's moving very quickly. Especially if you're in a high volume restaurant or a fine dining restaurant. Things need to be absolutely pristine, and there is no arguing with the chef. No arguing with the chef.
Definitely. No. So definitely all. Like, let's take two. So all the chefs that we have here are good eggs.
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of them are just phenomenal people as well. A couple of them are a little, there's one sad story in here.
Yeah.
But, we got some good guys there.
All right.
So who's your first chef?
So
that's not me.
So, really? Do you think it's you?
I said it's not me.
Okay. All right. So we were going over show prep, and we ran down our chefs that we have. You really have a rant about the best TV chef, Gordon Ramsay.
Oh, I think there'd be some debate on whether or not he's the best TV chef. He's certainly the loudest TV chef.
But he's the most well-known, do you think?
I think nowadays it could be Guy Fieri. Because he's, on 17 times a day and constantly. Bobby Flay comes and goes, but yes, he controls one network. He's on Fox, I believe,
yeah,
and he controls a lot of the network programming.
All right. So Ramsay, he was born in Scotland in 1966. He actually grew up to originally be a footballer.
Okay,
but he had to retire due to knee issues when he was a youngin. So he started his culinary journey in where most European chefs go, France.
Sure.
And some of his teachers were Marco Pierre White.
Okay.
And Albert Roux. Famously, Marco Pierre White made Gordon Ramsay cry when he was 19.
Marco Pierre White.
He was intense.
Was an asshole for quite some time, and he's tried to rejuvenate himself.
Oh yeah. And but plus he also did the TV rounds as well.
Right.
Like so I think he hosted MasterChef Australia and like Hell's Kitchen UK once Ramsay left for the US.
Yeah, he had an interesting career, Marco Pierre White, if I'm not mistaken, and he was just apparently not a nice person for quite some time, and then tried to rehabilitate. He was out of the food business for a while, or out of the restaurant business for a while, and came back in, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. But obviously Ramsay is so in 1998 he opened up his first official restaurant on his own, because from like 93 to 98 he worked at the Aubergine. But then I believe he got fired. I believe the owners fired one of his favorite chefs, and then he decided to leave to make his own restaurant. Aubergine had 2 Michelin stars. When Ramsay opened up his first restaurant Gordon Ramsay, it has 3 Michelin stars still to this day.
See, that's what confuses me about Gordon Ramsay. Is there's a huge dichotomy, because his restaurants are excellent.
It is.
His talent as a chef are fabulous. But when he does his TV shows, he rants, he raves, he throws stuff, and it's just, it's all for show. It's all theater. And you know what? It doesn't necessarily have to be that way.
Yeah. But do you think that's more like how U.S. audiences view him? Because like there's obviously a difference between like the U.S. shows and like the world shows, like the U.K. shows.
Right.
It's like and also the shows that don't involve a restaurant, like Gordon Ramsay. There was one that he had on National Geographic that's like phenomenal. He went to like different cultures and tried out their food.
Right. The man knows his stuff. He's a talented individual, but you'll notice if you watch like Hell's Kitchen, or is he the one with the elevator? I'm not even sure if he's the guy with the elevator where it's the food goes up and down and
the Next Level Chef.
Yeah.
Yep.
Is that him as well?
That's him.
Okay. You can tell, and even when he goes into redo restaurants, he took over that
Kitchen Nightmares.
Robert Irvine stuff that he would go and try to save people's businesses and restaurants.
Kitchen Nightmares.
So he goes in there, and you notice that, he comes in, they do that, he eats there, and then all of a sudden, he goes, he finds mold behind a refrigerator, he throws a hissy fit, he throws food, he makes the people cry, he comes back, they all love each other, the restaurant's doing great, and they close 2 years later.
But it's good entertainment, right? Like people like us, like that, like if we got nothing else to watch on a Friday night, we got Kitchen Nightmares just to see Gordon Ramsay say some great insults at people.
Yeah, I will be fair. I am not the target audience for that.
All right.
Because as I was saying to Blake earlier when we were talking about it, on Hell's Kitchen, they get there and they do all their trimming down and they get ready. And then it's the red team and the blue team and they go in the kitchen.
Okay.
And they bring in the diners.
Okay.
And when they bring in the diners, it's, Gordon Ramsay is 2 minutes away from having a stroke because people have been in the dining room for 45 minutes and nothing's been served. And I'm going, look, you're doing a choice of 3 appetizers. Get them out of the way, and I will serve everybody in 20 minutes and get the food on the plate because this is embarrassing.
I mean, be honest, though. If you can mess up scallops and risotto, you deserve to be yelled at by Chef Ramsay.
Risotto is not an easy thing to do, and it's one of my favorite dishes, and I love cooking risotto. But yes, I mean, but also you're dealing with amateur chefs or some professionals. And again, there was a woman who won 2nd or 3rd season of Hell's Kitchen, young woman, opened a restaurant on Long Island, then came to be and then she got poached to be a chef on a restaurant in Long Beach, my hometown. And, they're flitting like, flies on a moldy oyster because she was out of there in 6 months. So nobody's staying. They're all looking for, I'll appreciate their ambition, but you really need to get someplace to develop a reputation to prove that you can do it for more than a couple of minutes, honestly. So like I said, I'm an unfair critic of TV cooking shows and celebrity chefs.
All right. So I have 3 insults that I want to run by you that I think are my favorite Gordon Ramsay insults. So this was said on Hell's Kitchen. All right, let's see. You use so much oil, the U.S. wants to invade the fucking plate. What do you think?
I think that's about right.
All right. How about this one? This lamb is so undercooked, it's following Mary to school.
I like that one. Meh.
All right. This one. Why did the chicken cross the road? Because you didn't fucking cook it.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. So hey, we don't know how much of that is just like some script writers. I had to tell them, hey, next time there's a raw chicken, say this.
I think that he takes on, I think his restaurant chef in his restaurants, his persona there, I would like to believe is dramatically different than his TV persona, which is playing for ratings and shock. I mean, a lot of those shows are shock value, honestly.
Yeah, so. I definitely agree. But speaking about Hell's Kitchen, there is a Hell's Kitchen in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. That's like my, so I am a huge fan of Gordon Ramsay. So I definitely thought it was a rite of passage to go to a Gordon Ramsay restaurant for once. Hell's Kitchen in Las Vegas. Good. Yes, definitely that whiskey's definitely good as the filet mignon at Hell's Kitchen.
Oh,
it was so tender. Okay. But we'll say I know my dad's watching this. Your steak is much better. Your steak is much better.
Way to suck up to the boss.
Hey,
excellent.
Hey, I still have free rent, okay?
Shh, don't tell him. Don't remind him.
Okay.
But if for some reason you need to find someplace, you can go to Coquina Coast Realty and they'll find you a wonderful place to live.
Jeez. Okay. All right. But another thing, the sticky toffee pudding.
Okay, yeah.
It was phenomenal.
Right. And that's an English dish that is making its way into America's hearts and stomachs.
Oh yeah, definitely. Okay. Dude, it was phenomenal. All right. Okay. Did you have anything else to say on Gordon Ramsay?
No, I have nothing else to say on Gordon Ramsay. Thank you.
But he definitely seems to be much more younger than they used to be. He looks much more younger than when he was like back in like '98 when he was like actually young.
Well, look, the pressure of running a kitchen of that magnitude is very heavy. There's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of responsibility, and once you get a Michelin star or two, your biggest fear is you're going to lose one.
Yeah.
And that's trouble, man, because it's hard to get them back when you lose them, in all honesty.
All right. Your first chef.
Okay, my first chef. Before I get into the most adorable chef kicking around nowadays, Jack Papon, I want to say one of our viewers today brought up Graham Kerr, the Galloping Gourmet, and that's a generation and a half ago. He was like the James Bond of cooking TV shows. He was on in the afternoon. He was quite suave and debonair, and he would just drink more than Blake and I together on any 2 Bolloxes total. So, Graham Kerr was a lot of fun. We thought about doing him, but, that's a generation way too far ago. But, and growing up in the afternoon, he was debonair, I will say that. Yeah. So my first one is Jacques Pepin.
Okay.
And Jacques Pepin is just adorable. If you're on Instagram, follow Jacques Pepin. He posts every day. He posts recipes from his kitchen. He does a Budget Tuesday, which is an inexpensive recipe. He works with things that are in his kitchen, in his refrigerator. He does a Monday Giggle, which is something, just a clever little thing. There you go. That's Jacques himself. But Jacques Pepin was a terrific French chef, was born in France. He's 87 years old. And by the way, I mean adorable. And he was the chef to Charles de Gaulle. He was the chef to the president of France and a couple other presidents of France for a while. And in 1959, he came to the United States. And he worked in a restaurant called La Pavillon, or the Pavilion, which had closed many years ago. And Daniel Boulud, another phenomenal French chef who's got restaurants all over America, reopened it in the new building they built at One Vanderbilt Place in Manhattan, attached to the Grand Central Terminal. And it was the most phenomenal French restaurant in New York at the time. And Jacques Pepin was the chef there. And one of his loyal customers in the restaurant was a guy by the name of Howard Johnson of Orange Roof fame. So Howard poached Jacques Pepin to come be his chef de cuisine and develop recipes for his restaurant, along with another gentleman by the name of Pierre Franny, who wrote the first New York Times cookbook, I believe. And the two of them went and they did recipe development and stuff for Howard Johnson. I just love the fact that there really was a Howard Johnson, and the fact that he ate at this restaurant regularly and worked with these chefs to, and if you've been to Howard Johnson's, and they're tough to find nowadays, but if you grew up on Howard Johnson's, the ubiquitous dish that everybody would get would be the fried clam strips.
Oh.
So, you can get belly clams, which are wonderful, the whole clams, or you get fried clams, and it's the strips. Well, it was Jacques Pepin who developed them for Howard Johnson, and from there they became, a taste sensation across America. So it was really good. But Jacques has written over 30 cookbooks. He worked with Julia Child. He and Julia Child had a show on PBS for years.
They won a daytime Emmy, I think.
Yes, they did. And people were concerned that they didn't get along well. And he said, she's been my friend for 50 years. We've been friends for 50 years. So therefore, of course, we argue all the time. But we also drink a lot of wine together. So that was really pretty great. And he was very proud of that. But if you're interested at all, follow Jacques Pepin on Instagram, because I can't recommend it enough. And he also has the Jacques Pepin Foundation, which is there to help people who might not be able to get into the culinary profession, break into the culinary profession. He takes underserved communities and gives them scholarship to go to cooking schools. He opens a couple of cooking schools. As a matter of fact, Jacques Pepin was one of the first people who was the director of the French Culinary Institute in New York. When I was in New York, I went to the New York Restaurant School at the time. 2 years later, they opened the French Culinary Institute, which had morphed into now recently, it's the International Culinary Academy. He's just great. But if you want to join the Jacques Pepin Foundation, it's either $30 or $60. It gets you an entire video collection of recipes and things of that nature. But also, Jacques Pepin is also an artist. He tends to draw a lot of chickens, believe it or not, a lot of chickens. But he's a very, very talented artist. His cookbooks his recent cookbooks have been illustrated by him. And I will tell you that when I was living in the city and cooking in the city one day, I absolutely fanboyed out on him because I'm going up 13th Street one way toward my apartment, and somebody coming opposite me was Jacques Pepin, and I went until he walked past me, and I spun around, and I just followed him just to see where he was going, and he went to his brownstone there, and I didn't stalk him too much further than that, but it was just like, holy cow, chef, how are you? So yeah, I fanboyed out there a little bit.
All right.
Did the same thing in Vegas with Daniel Boulud, but he and I got to hang out for a little while, and that was a lot of fun, too.
All right.
Who you got? Your turn.
All right, so my next chef. So I'm actually going to go with someone that is a little bit controversial. But I do have some of her pots and panware at my house. Paula Deen.
Okay.
So, Paula Deen, Southern home cooking. That's what she's famous for. Like,
Never met a pound of butter she didn't like.
Indeed, she did. That may have cost her a little bit of her life expense.
I don't think so.
Expectancy. But hey, as long as it tastes good, it's good. Yeah. So her career took off with the Lady and Sons in Savannah. Georgia.
Yep.
You been there?
I haven't been to the restaurant. I've walked past the restaurant.
Has it always been busy?
I don't know. I'm sure it hit a slowdown at one point in time when she got into a little bit of a conflict for some of the comments that she had made.
Yeah.
It's still there. I don't know how they're doing. Her two boys were involved in the restaurant at one point in time. One went a little bit further in the food business than her other son. But I'm not quite sure what she's doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but during her prime, she had like Food Network shows, cookbooks, HSN, QVC. Like she was on all the networks, like just like plugging her great food. In 2012, so this was 1 year before her main controversy. She officially announced that she was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes because the whole pound of butter a day.
Yeah, and some of her desserts were
sugary,
a little sweetie, shall we say?
And so, but hey, way too much sugar in the peach cobbler, But hey, it may taste sweet on your tongue, but maybe not in the bloodstream, though.
Right. Well, tough to get rid of that.
Indeed.
Yeah. But she, for a while she was great. She was one of the most popular TV chefs for quite some time. Yeah. And then, like a lot of people do, they
said some dumb stuff.
Get canceled. Yeah.
They said some dumb stuff that people do not like. Well. So in 2013, it was during a deposition in a lawsuit when it was basically where allegations of racist remarks surfaced during a deposition in a lawsuit. She admitted to using racially insensitive language in the past, leading to the loss of like her sponsorships, endorsements, her Food Network channel, her Food Network show, and like a whole bunch. Like she lost money in that, but hey, it was deserved. She admitted to say that she said some stuff that she probably shouldn't say to other people, And like I get having second chances, but it's just like you are in a position where people see you every day, and some people look up to you when it comes to food and when it comes to culinary and food. Why why would you have this thought in your head? Like people are going to see this.
Right. Well, people say things, they don't realize they're saying it at the time. I've been victim of that myself. Sometimes I, engage my mouth before I engage my brain. And, I really need a clutch on that a little bit better to operate. But, I've never gone to that quite extreme, to the best of my knowledge. Keep your cards and letters and send them over. Yeah, so do I. Blake. Believe me when I tell you. But it was a shame.
But hey, she's still doing her thing. She still has multiple cookbooks. I think she has a YouTube channel. The restaurants are still open. So,
look.
But hey, and also I still have a cookware. It's still working. Like I think we purchased it. I think my dad purchased that when we still had the river condo.
Right.
And when we moved out there, we took it. My dad took it with us. It's still working today.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I will say that we're a nation of and a population that, for the most part, most of us believe in redemption and second chances. Nobody doesn't like a redemption story.
No.
I'm not saying that she's redeemed herself in any way, or has even honestly tried to, because I'm not that familiar with her most recent situation. But you know what? Second chances. It's what it's all about. And and if she can learn from that and make some kind of amends, then good for her. And, everybody's better off when that happens. So we'll see.
Just be nice to people, guys. That's all I ask.
Right. Let's pay some bills while we're here. Why don't you?
Okay. Yeah. But it was a little bit of an uneven split because I had two chefs, you had one chef.
I got a chef coming up.
All right.
But I figure we should probably pay some bills.
You know what? You're definitely right.
All right. So Coquina Coast Realty, your realtor to the stars, and who's going to be the person Blake's going to when his father starts to raise his rent. And he says, I can't afford this. Can you find me something downtown with parking, please? I'd appreciate that.
Wait, what?
And believe me, I'm not getting you thrown out yet. Don't worry. But you know what? Troy Blevins of Coquina Coast Realty will be your answer. He knows the city as well, if not better than anybody else. He can help you with apartments. He can help you with commercial real estate. If you're looking to open a business and you need a location for that, go to Troy. If you got a question, go to Troy. He's a very nice man. He'll take the time and answer your questions. And he'll send Blake the bill. Don't you worry about that.
Indeed, the number again is 904-669-7901. And once again, 904-669-7901.
Call collect. Abare, Kresge and Associates. If you need financial information, you need somebody to do your tax returns, you're setting up a business, you need somebody to do your business plan, help you with that, Abare, Kresge and Associates are the people to go to. I know Troy has, 6, 7, 17, 18, 19 businesses, so he single-handedly keeps them afloat, but if they've got time when they're done with Troy, I think that's the people you really need to go to in this town. They know their business, and they're going to help you do your financial planning well. They're going to do your taxes. They're going to take good care of you. So that's Abare, Kresge and Associates in St. Augustine. Kaiser's Deli for all your luncheon needs. Boar's Head products, great sandwiches, a beautiful selection of curated beers and wines.
The White Street, man.
The White Street Toasted.
Phenomenal.
The White Street Toasted, baby.
Indeed.
That's the
Thank
way to
you.
go.
Thank
Crisp
you.
that up. And it's just, and the staff that are there, I talk about the staff at Meehan's. I got news for you. The people that work at Kaiser's are also quite wonderful. And, if you're looking for some Christmas gifts and you want to support local St. Augustine businesses, Kaiser's got a lot of products that are made by local artisans in St. Augustine. My favorite being Bee Hill Farms for their honey. Great local honey, beautiful family, great product. You can get them at the St. Augustine Amphitheater, or you can get them at Kaiser's Deli and a couple other places around town. And their honey is great. And you know what? It's helpful for you because if you seem to have an allergy, if you eat whole honey from a local area, it tends to fight your local allergies. So, and the best thing about it, and not great for their business, but in general, honey never goes bad. Never goes bad.
Plus, you're helping support the bee population as well.
Very true, which is very important for everything that grows, all your food that's grown, and all your flowers. Pirate Museum, Captain Meehan,
great museum.
Yep. And you know what? It's serious pirate stuff, and then they've got the Peter Pan movie. So how can you go wrong with that? And if you have small children, they've got scavenger hunts set up there that keep the kids occupied. I was there and I'm watching children running back and forth and filling out their scavenger hunt sheets. It's a great, great place. Speaking of great places, what can I say about Meehan's that I haven't said about Meehan's? Oh, yeah. Try the Irish cream. They make it fresh there every day. I brought a friend there last week. She couldn't get it. She wanted to go back just for the Irish cream. It is rich. It is delicious. It is decadent. But I had the key lime pie there for dessert. And it is one of the most creative key lime pies and one of the best key lime pies I've ever had.
I'm in heaven.
It's more like it's almost more like an upside down key lime muffin, but muffin is a bad description. That's the shape. Like it's made like in a muffin tin. So you get this little triangle with just a very, very, very light crust on the outside. And it is it's the first time I had it, and I can't understand why. It's beyond sublime. It is fabulous. So, try the key lime pie is all I have to say. Reggie, you guys are knocking it out of the park.
And
you're blowing it out of the water.
And you know who else makes some great food? The Roosevelt Room.
They do.
The Roosevelt Room. Great candy bacon.
Yeah, you're the candy bacon boy.
We need my dad and I have been pushing to go. It's just our schedules have been messed up a lot, but with us going on holiday break now, less working hours, we need to go. We are going to the Roosevelt Room.
I will wake up early. How's that? Because they close at I think 2:30 or 3 o'clock.
Yes.
So it's a breakfast lunch kind of place.
Yeah.
And the breakfasts are good. That I can speak to personally. And then, if you're down there opposite the fort and you're walking around and you're looking for a tasting tour, do the City Gate Spirits. It's fabulous. I think it's a minimum of 6, but I think it might be nine tastes of their very creative products. They've got moonshine. They've got a Coca-Cola whiskey. They've got a smoked bacon whiskey. They've got just great stuff there, all sorts of flavors. They've got a creamsicle. Now, I'm not necessarily a creamsicle fan, but those people that are told me it was absolutely delicious. So you can get their fairly priced stuff. Great gift giving this time of year. I'm telling you, when you're downtown, you'll see people walking around with little square cardboard boxes that have their purchases in them.
We see them everywhere while walking by our house, all the time. And we say, hey.
Right. And then, the be-all and end-all of St. Augustine tours is by far the St. Augustine Distillery.
One of the best.
Came to town, opened their doors, and people just flocked to it. It's on the trolley. It's on the trolley route. So if you're doing the trolley, you can take the trolley, get off, take a tour, get back on. It's in the old ice plant building, which was the original ice plant for St. Augustine. When people didn't have a refrigerator, they had ice boxes and they needed to get their ice from someplace. That was the building that manufactured the ice in St. Augustine. Their distillery is on the ground floor there. Their bourbon is one of my personal favorites, and I will be gifting myself a bottle for Christmas. Why not?
Yeah.
I like me. Why shouldn't I get myself a gift?
And you want to know how successful St. Augustine Distillery is? Their CEO, Philip, is on the Visit Florida Tourism Board.
Yep.
So the state recognizes his business as one of the best in the state.
It's one of the most popular tours in St. Augustine, if not the most popular tour in St. Augustine.
It is.
Yeah,
But because people love it. People love all like all the types of stuff they have brewing there at the distillery. It is a phenomenal tour.
And you know what? And it's Florida-centric in the fact that, if I'm not mistaken, and I believe I'm correct in the fact that for their clear liquors at least, they use Florida cane sugar as their sweetener.
Indeed.
So their gin, their rums, their selection of rums, their vodka, it's Florida cane sugar. I don't know about the gin, but the other two are for certain Florida cane sugar.
Definitely.
And it's really a nice touch, a little hometown touch.
But as it should be.
Okay.
All right,
I go.
You're chef.
All right.
Chef number 2.
Well, I'm going to touch very briefly on another adorable French chef named Daniel Boulud, who is one of the most talented chefs in the country. He's got restaurants in New York and in Palm Beach and in Miami and certainly in Las Vegas, where I had the pleasure of meeting the man on a very quiet night and went into the kitchen and tried to lure him to open a restaurant in Long Beach because he was looking for a restaurant on Long Island, but that never came to fruition. But what a delightful man. And talented. But if you can find it somewhere, he did a show called After Hours, which was one of the most interesting shows for somebody like me. He would, and it's a type of thing where these chefs have people that work for them, and they're very encouraging to take their little fledglings, their little ducklings, and send them out into the world and fly on their own. So if you worked as a sous chef, if you learned under Daniel Boulud and you hit a certain point, you would go out and you would open your own restaurant. So what Daniel Boulud would do is he would go to these restaurants that he had connections to because he trained some of the chefs who are now going out on their own. And he would come in, and the show was called After Hours. And he would go in, and he'd go in the morning, and he would bring some exotic product, whether it was the first white asparagus of the season, whether it was the first sardines that were happening, a lot of different things that were not necessarily readily available at the time or things. And he would go in and he would set up stuff and he would cook a meal, and then he would wait until the restaurant closed. And then they would bring in 6 or 7 people. It would be the chef of the restaurant, Daniel Boulud, and then whoever publicist was able to get these A and B list celebrities at that table. And they would sit around and they would basically just shoot the shit, eat and drink, and they would eat the meal. And they would tell some of the most amazing stories. And I remember one in particular that these guys were all in New York. It was Daniel Boulud. It was Wally Dufresne of WD-40.
What?
WD-40 was a restaurant. Wally Dufresne was the chef that sort of brokered molecular gastronomy into the United States. Fernan Aria did it in San Sebastian in Spain. This was the man who just started with molecular gastronomy when the center of food moved from France to Spain, to northern Spain. And it took over the food world. And Ferran Aria just did all this amazing molecular gastronomy. And it was like, I'll give you an example. There's a gentleman who is also wonderfully talented, brilliant. The fact that he has not yet won the Nobel Peace Prize is beyond me. And that's Jose Andres, World Central Kitchen. If you haven't seen it, if there is a flood, if there is a fire, if there is a war, Jose Andres' group goes in there and they set up kitchens. And when people have no food, he starts cooking for people. He did it in Maui. He's doing it in Gaza. He's doing it in Ukraine. They wade into some of the most dangerous places in the world to make sure people are not going hungry. It's a phenomenon. It's one of the philanthropies that I annually donate to because he does so well. But he's got a series of restaurants. Most of them are in Washington, D.C. But I remember he did a little like bar type restaurant where it was very limited. And he would make a martini, but the olive would be molecular gastronomy. So you thought there was an olive in there because you saw a green spherical thing in there, but it was all the olive juice in it. And you would pop it, and then that would go into make your martini, your dirty martini. The man's brilliant. And now he's got a travel show where he takes his 3 daughters to Spain, and he's also got a podcast called Longer Tables. He's trying to broker peace and understanding through food and through the man is well worthy of the Nobel Peace Prize. And I will be disappointed if he doesn't get one in the next couple of years for everything that he does. And if you're looking for a good feeding charity, World Central Kitchen takes care of a lot of people in a lot of disasters and a lot of war-torn places. That's all I can say about him. But if you get a chance to find some of the old episodes of After Hours, absolutely fascinating. But it was just to tie up that last story, it was Danielle Boulud, it was Wally Dufresne, it was the guy from Oriel, Charlie Palmer, and there might have been one other person, and they were out drinking one night after work, and, chefs tend to do that. I don't know where they get that idea, but chefs tend to drink after work or during work. And they got into a cab, and they were going someplace, and the cab driver said, hold on, I got to stop the car, I got to go pee. And he goes to a restaurant that's known for cab drivers to stop in so he could run in, go to the bathroom. And the 3 guys are looking at each other, and they got a cab that's running, and they got a tab that's running. And they looked at each other, and they said, yeah, why not? And they took the guy's cab, and they went joyriding all over Manhattan. And they did this for a couple of hours. And they come back and they bring the cab back, and everybody's sitting at the table. He's telling the story, and Charlie Palmer was at the table with him, and I think Wiley may have been as well. And they are remembering and reminiscing of this story, and I'm rolling because, the only answer was when they said, people said, what did you do? They said, we gave him a really, really, really big tip. So, chefs are kind of impish, shall we say? A little bit of mischievous nature in a lot of chefs, and Danielle Boulud, Jacques Pepin. I just think there's a twinkle in their eye. I really, really do. But my next one is the late lamented Anthony Bourdain.
Oh, I was really hoping that this would be the next one because I have a great quote from him that I want to get into. But you go ahead and introduce him.
Well, Anthony Bourdain. We have a lot of career parallels, he and I. Working in places, just, you'd work, you'd party, you'd go to sleep, you'd wake up, you'd work, you'd party, you'd go to sleep. Anthony Bourdain, and you know what? It's funny, because I didn't know until today that he went to Vassar and dropped out after 2 years. And that was very interesting because I got into Vassar and didn't go to Vassar. I would have been probably a lawyer today and not been as happy with myself or eaten nearly as well as I have over the course of my entire life. And, I chose to go to Cornell instead and didn't even go to the hotel school there, but be that as it may. So there's a lot of parallels, especially in our careers. But Anthony Bourdain came to the public awareness when he wrote a book called Kitchen Confidentials, Adventures in the Culinary Underbelly. And it was about, doing all that. Working on a line, doing drugs, fighting drugs, getting up, going to work hungover because you didn't not show up for a shift. Didn't matter how badly you felt, you got there. And, and this is where, and then he took a job as an executive chef in a restaurant on Park Avenue South called, God bless you, called Les Halles. It was a brasserie in Manhattan. Basically, it was a variation of a French steakhouse. And it was excellent. That's where he made his mark as a chef in Manhattan. To the point that, he was still listed as their executive chef without portfolio when he passed away, unfortunately, in 2018 of an apparent suicide.
That was...
But he brokered Celebrity Chef and Travelog better than anybody I know.
Definitely.
Maybe Samantha Brown, because Samantha Brown, when she started, she would go to a lot of places and she would feature on the food and the drink, but now she's as much travel as she is food and drink. But Anthony Bourdain took it to the next level, certainly from the food perspective, and then started to do the travel aspect of it as well. He had shows called, his first show was called A Cook's Tour, then No Reservations, which a lot of people remember because that was on for a bunch of years. Then the layover, which was a very clever one because he did so much traveling around that you're someplace and you get someplace for a couple of days and you got a layover. Well, he started exploiting that to find out what you can do in 32 hours in some place.
Yeah.
And then Parts Unknown, which he did from 2013 until he passed away in 2018 because he was actually in Alsace in northern France on location when he passed away or committed suicide. But he was a pull no punch. He was a pull no punch kind of guy. He had a list of people, and this is very funny. He had a list of people that he just had no respect for in the land of celebrity chefs. First one on his list, Paula Deen, Bobby Flay, Guy Fieri, Sandra Lee, and Rachel Ray. He was not big fans of them at all. He did praise Fernand Adria, the guy who was the one who brought molecular gastronomy into the forefront. Fergus Henderson, who is a crazy Englishman, might be Irish, but he's a crazy Englishman. Jose Andres, who we spoke about, who is just, you want to talk humanitarian, you open the dictionary and his picture is right there. Thomas Keller, who is the French Laundry, per se. He's opened a couple down in South Florida now. He just opened one in Palm Beach, I believe. Also tremendous. I've had the pleasure of eating in 2 of his restaurants. Phenomenal. And he's just brilliant. And then Eric Repair, who was Tony Bourdain's probably best friend. And Eric Repair is the chef at Le Bernardin, which is a very, very prestigious fish restaurant in Manhattan in the Equitable Center. And it's a spectacular restaurant. I've eaten there a couple of times. It is by far. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it just got the award for being the best restaurant in the world.
Oh,
right
wow.
now. And Eric Repair is just, and you know what? And Eric Repair is one of these wonderful people who is just a gifted chef, runs one of the best restaurants in the world by far. But the man is just enjoys life, enjoys whimsy. He doesn't take himself too seriously. He takes his food very, very seriously. He's a Buddhist, actually. It was very interesting because he doesn't eat a whole lot of meat. But he will. But he would travel with Tony Bourdain, as a matter of fact, and they would go to places. And to see the 2 of these guys rip it up was just a pleasure because you could really see the personal camaraderie they had and how much they really enjoyed each other. And then the other guy that he applauded was Marco Pierre White. Believe it or not, the bad boy. Marco Pierre White was one of the first bad boys of cooking, well before everybody else.
Yeah.
So it was kind of interesting.
All right. So 2 points I have about Anthony Bourdain. First was his dinner in Vietnam with President Obama.
Barack Obama.
That was I think I remember the restaurant that they went to. They have it memorialized like so everything that was left at the table was still there. So it's like all the leftover bottles, the empty plates, like all the bottles of, like, I think it was Heineken that they were drinking.
Yeah.
They left it on the table for everyone to see. Second thing, this is a more recent one, but because Henry Kissinger died, he had a famous quote where it says, I think it was when he traveled to Cambodia. Mm-hmm. The quote was, "Once you've been to Cambodia, you never stop wanting to beat Henry Kissinger to death with your bare hands." He understood.
Okay.
He understood. Yes. This country has culture because of food, but you have to understand what's also going on in this country besides food, and that's what made his travel shows so important.
Well, the killing fields in Pol Pot in Cambodia. We're about to take a slightly dark turn here, people. They have museums that have just, you walk down a hallway and on plexiglass on either side of you are just human skulls. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. What Pol Pot did to that country was abhorrent, past abhorrent. So I can understand why Anthony Bourdain is absolutely going to say that. I haven't been to Cambodia yet. I have friends who have been. And this is one of the things they take away from that is just the absolute loss of life and the murder that this man did in the name of basically moving his country back into the dark ages. If you were a doctor, a lawyer, an educator, man, you were one of those skulls now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But back to Vietnam and Tony Bourdain, a couple of things. First of all, he's having, and Barack Obama is not a small person.
No.
And neither was Tony Bourdain. Yet, when you go to a restaurant in Vietnam, you're sitting on very low plastic stools. So I got a kick out of the fact that Obama is sitting there on a plastic with his knees basically up to his chin, sitting on the stool as they're eating their noodles. But they were having a hoop it up good time. They were really enjoying it. But a couple other times, Anthony Bourdain would go into the north of Vietnam, or he'd travel around, and he always had somebody with him that was a party member, because it's still a communist country, and he would have the local Communist Party leader. And then they start drinking it. And in the early shows, Tony Bourdain drank himself to sleep almost on half of these shows. But he got he couldn't understand how this little tiny Vietnamese party leader was drinking him under the table. I mean, they were doing he would do, and then they'd bring out the snake venom liquor.
Oh.
Man, that was scary stuff. But it was great because, Tony Bourdain did one. He was in Paris. He did one on absinthe where he was drinking legitimate absinthe with the wormwood in it. And, the little green fairy came to visit him. It's funny stuff. The man will be missed, sadly. It was, I feel for his wife, and more importantly, I feel for his daughter.
Oh, yeah.
It's just sad. But, the man obviously had demons. Mm-hmm. And there, but the grace of God go I and many other people. So, rest in peace. I hope your soul is at peace, Anthony. I really do.
All right.
So
we only have like 5 minutes left. So at this point, I want to ask you, like, so you work in the restaurant industry for the most part. You sometimes work at Kaiser's. You may not know how to work a POS system, but
yeah, I try not to. If that's computer technology has passed me by. Yeah, I consider myself the Michael Corleone of the restaurant industry. I thought I was out, and they pulled me back in.
Yeah.
3 times.
Yeah.
I ran my own restaurants for 15 years. Where I was very successful. I did it in my hometown. I loved it right up until the day I didn't love it, and I put my restaurant up for sale and sold it. Okay. Got drawn back in, retired again, got drawn back in, retired again, and now I am there for Kaiser when he needs me.
Okay. So what do you think makes like a good chef? Like what makes the perfect chef?
I don't know that there's a perfect chef, because a lot of it's temperament, honestly, and I don't know. You can only be David Livingston. I had a chef working for me, was the calmest man. This is you know how you have friends that they're just as calm as can be, but you're just in the back of your mind, there's a palpable fear that if they ever go off, nobody would ever be safe. I know, that's why I stay on your good side. Believe me. But David Livingston, a man who was my chef in my last restaurant for a good number of years, a dear friend, talented man. I have never seen somebody that calm in a kitchen for that long. And God bless you, Mr. Livingston. Absolutely. What a lovely, lovely man he was. But it's temperament, Blake. I really do. I mean, the skill, the skill comes, the skill goes. If you're following a menu, you need creativity. You need to be able to react to ingredients. And more importantly, you need to be able to react when there's a problem. One of the greatest lessons I had in restaurant school was a guy by the name of Dan Leader, as a matter of fact, was the chef at a restaurant called Elephant and Castle in Manhattan. And he came in to do a class in restaurant school when I was in restaurant school in 1981. And he said, look, everything's well and good when everything goes well. But when your delivery doesn't come and you're about to open and you don't have your ingredients, what are you going to do? And that's how you have to handle it. You have to be able to do things on the fly. You have to be able to react. You have to be able to adapt very, very quickly. That's the key thing in a restaurant. Your gas goes out. Your delivery doesn't work. And the other thing I hate about, certain things is, weather forecasters. Because my restaurants were in New York on Long Island, and we'd have reservations booked. I had a fine dining restaurant and I had a casual restaurant. I had 2 restaurants at the same time for a while. And the fine dining restaurant was reservation only, and people would make reservations a couple, 3 weeks in advance because it was a very popular, and it was immodesty aside, it was an excellent, excellent restaurant. And people would plan a couple, 3 weeks in advance to make the reservation. And then by the middle of the week, the forecaster was going, oh, there's going to be a lot of snow tonight, man. Or coming up on this weekend, it's going to snow. Well, you know what? People would start canceling their restaurants, and Friday would come and there wasn't a flurry. Saturday would come and it would be a beautiful day, and all of a sudden you're sitting there trying to fill your seats again because the weather forecasters would scare away your business, and that was I found that terribly unfair.
So you were really hoping that my dad was a weatherman earlier with his quick check of the weather.
Quick check of the weather, exactly. Yep, and there is the answer to that is yes, there is weather.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So you were a restaurant owner, right? And you were also a part-time chef, basically, correct?
No. Quite the opposite. I was the chef in the restaurant. I was the chef in all my restaurants.
Okay.
My first restaurant, I'm a crazy person. I did 50 menus a year. I was open. I closed for 2 weeks. I changed the menu every week. Yeah, I was a crazy person. I went to my next restaurant. I got smart and only changed the menu once a month, and I did 12 menus a year. So it was a lot easier to deal with it that way. But no, I would start as the chef. I did learn that it was easier to control a kitchen from the dining room than the dining room from a kitchen. Yeah. So I would train somebody to cook my style of food. First restaurant I did it, for 5 years. It was me and my sous chefs. But the second restaurant, I brought in a very talented man named Paul Paskins who worked with me. Paul has sadly passed away, but I'll put it to you this way. Paul worked at Windows on the World, and he came to work for me. I was flattered and honored by that, honestly. The guy was talented, though he did have a New Year's resolution one year that he was not going to bend. And I said, Paul, how are you going to get into the oven? And we never quite worked that one out. But he was great. Paul was absolutely great, talented young man. But as soon as I could turn the reins over to somebody in the kitchen, I could go out to the dining room and control the dining room and then control the kitchen from the dining room. And I did that in 2 of my restaurants. Yeah. I would start, a year and a half in. I got somebody who can do it, and we would go from there.
All right. And last question before we have to end, because it looks like we're like a minute away from ending.
Okay. Here.
What so do you recommend like for any chefs that want to get into the restaurant business, do you think it might be better to work under someone or
absolutely
definitely
absolutely
don't go in like full ball like full,
I would unless you've worked in a restaurant, unless you've trained with somebody, unless you know your stuff. There's a lot of people that go into the restaurant business thinking they can do it. It's a very attractive business. It's a very attractive business, but if you're not quite sure what you're doing, and, first of all, do it with other people's monies if you can, because, that's the way to make money, use somebody else's. And in all fairness, I own 3 restaurants of my own, and I got all 3 of them successfully. So I can't complain about that personally. But I would work under somebody. I would learn as long as you can, and then go and open your restaurant. As I said, Danielle Boulud trained some of the best chefs who have all gone on to open some of their own fine dining restaurants or casual restaurants. Some people have come out of his fine dining restaurants and opened burger joints and have done very, very successfully.
All right. But you know what else was successful today?
Us?
Our show. We survived. We made a full hour.
Blake, we did fine. I always like working with you, Mr. Blevins, the younger.
Right,
absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lenny, for coming here today.
Pleasure.
I hope you enjoyed our Studio A sets. Next week,
feeling fancy.
Next week we will return to Studio B. But thank you guys so much for watching. Please make sure you share this show. It helps us a lot. Make sure you like, comment. It really helps us out. Make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. And also big thank you to our sponsors, St. Augustine Distillery, City Gates and Meehan's, Roosevelt Room, St. Augustine Pirate and Treasure Museum, Kaiser's Deli, Abare, Kresge and Associates, and Coquina Coast Realty. Thank you, Lenny, so much for helping me out.
A pleasure as always. You know how much I enjoy this.
It is amazing. And this is Bollox Talks and Tangents, and we'll see you
next week.
Yep. Bye, everyone.